Over the past several years, a lot of people have been deciding to call it quits in big cities like Seattle and get moved inland where there are smaller towns. Since Idaho is full of small towns, it's usually up there on their list. So to help you decide if Idaho is the right place for you to live, I put together this list that is going to compare what it's like living in Idaho compared to Seattle to help you decide if this is the right place for you. We're going to be covering what the crime rates are, traffic, income potential, cost of living, all of the important factors that you need to know to decide if this is the right place. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another episode of Living Life in North Idaho. My name is Trent and I have been in this area for 31 years. If you're interested in knowing more about what it's like living, eating, working, playing, buying real estate here in Idaho or Eastern Washington, make sure you tap the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so every time I come out with a new video, you get notified. And guys, we just officially hit over 20,000 subscribers and I am so thankful that you guys have found this information helpful and that we've been able to help so many people figure out if Idaho or Eastern Washington is the right place for them to live and also help them get moved here. So if this is you and you've been watching these videos, or maybe you just stumbled upon it, but you're serious about getting moved to this area, reach out at the phone number or email address listed below. Day, nights, weekends, it does not matter. And there's also a website. So if you're not quite ready to talk to anybody yet, you can go there, you can check out what the real estate market is doing, and we can help get you all set up when you're ready, but reach out anytime. So diving into this video, guys, I am comparing what it's really like living in Idaho compared to Seattle. Last video I did, it was more of the political stuff because that's what is on a lot of people's minds, but today we're gonna talk about all of the pertinent information, what it's really like living in Idaho compared to Seattle. So we're gonna talk about traffic. Are you gonna be sitting in traffic over here? We're gonna talk about your income potential, cost of living, what are the highest paying jobs? Are there things to do in Idaho? What are the people like? All of the necessary information for you to decide with intention, is Idaho somewhere that I wanna live? We've had people move here that just wanted to get away from where they were living. They didn't really know what it's like, and they ended up leaving after a year. I don't love that. I want people moving here with the intention of living the best lives they can, of being the best versions of themselves so that they bring more happiness and joy to where I live and not just running from their problems. So hopefully with all this information, you can decide, yep, that's where I want to live, or nope, gonna look somewhere else. So the first thing we're gonna look at, and this is the thing that is on a lot of people's minds, is the income. What can you make and what does it cost to live here? So this is gonna be a huge disparity and you're probably gonna exit out of this video right away. But in Seattle, minimum wage from what I saw online, $18.69 an hour. In Seattle, I get it, it's super expensive to live there. In Idaho, $7.50 an hour. It goes off of the federal minimum wage. And if you are a service worker that gets tips, $3.35 an hour. And as long as after the end of your shift, you're making the equivalent of $7.50 an hour, you don't have to get paid anymore by your employer. So it's awesome if you want to start a restaurant here, but if you're a service worker, if you work in a restaurant, not so great. Now we do have some really high-end restaurants that you can make really good money, but unfortunately the average serving job, you're not going to be making much. The good news is Spokane is right next door to us in Eastern Washington, and their minimum wage right now is $15.74 an hour. Even servers get that and they still get tips. So you don't have to drive far. It's about 30 minutes away. And if you are in that industry, you can still make pretty good money. But yeah, it's not the $18.69 that Seattle's making. I also looked at what the highest paying jobs are in Seattle compared to Idaho. Now you might disagree with me. I got this information off of ziprecruiter.com. So it might just be looking at the jobs that they can recruit for. I don't know if they're recruiting CEOs. I feel like CEOs probably make more than what's on this list, but let's go through it real quick. The top 3 highest paying jobs in Seattle are a hospitalist, and they get paid a max of $375,000. Software engineer, $196,900, and nurse practitioners at $170,000. So in Idaho, the top 3 highest paying jobs are family physician. Well, yeah, you're a doctor. You went to school forever. You're in tons of debt. Of course, you're going to make pretty good money. Airline pilot, $202,000. General physician, $202,000. So yeah, the top 2 out of 3 highest paying jobs in Idaho, you have to go to medical school and be a doctor. Not great, obviously. We do not have a lot of really high paying jobs here. So I want to be transparent. If you are in the beginning of your career and you're just getting started and you're hoping to move here and buy a house, make sure you've got that job lined up. The remote work has become a lot more popular since the pandemic, so there are a lot of people who are able to do that, and it's a great option. We have great internet in a lot of the towns here. Here in North Idaho, we do have fiber internet, and so remote work is definitely a thing that people get to do. But yes, the income potential is not super great here in Idaho, but I will say it's really awesome if you are an entrepreneur and you're trying to get your business started. But overall, you can expect to make about 11.5% less here in Idaho compared to Seattle, according to salary.com. Even though you can expect to make less living here in Idaho, it also costs a lot less to live here. It costs 30.5% less living in Idaho compared to Seattle. So yeah, you're taking a little bit off the top with your income, but what goes out every month is going to be considerably less compared to Seattle. Next area of focus is taxes. Now, every state is going to get their cuts, but unfortunately, Washington is known to take a lot more than just a slice. According to ChatGPT, Seattle has some of the highest taxes in the country. So that's where we're gonna have some good news doing this comparison. According to my research, Seattle has a combined sales tax of 10.25%, where Idaho only has a 6% sales tax. Seattle does not have an official income tax, but Idaho does at 5.8%. For property taxes, there is no set rate. It does depend on what county you're in, if you're on waterfront. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. And I know on paper, it looked like they were somewhat similar, but the fact is in Idaho, if it's your primary home, you get a deduction of up to $125,000 off of the value of your home, which can equate to up to $1,500 a year off of your property taxes. So not only is it normally cheaper, but then you get that deduction and it's quite a bit less. I've lived in Washington, I've lived in Idaho, and typically my property taxes are almost a half of what they are in Washington, which is pretty nice. For my retirees that are looking to get moved out of Seattle, Idaho is actually very friendly towards retirees. The Social Security is not taxed. Things like gasoline, groceries, utilities, quite a bit cheaper than it is over in Seattle, and our economy is not booming like Seattle, so prices are not skyrocketing. Now, we did have a pandemic and a lot of people got moved here and prices went up all over the country, so I know there's gonna be some comments arguing with me about this, but compared to when I go to Seattle, it's a lot cheaper over here in Idaho. The next big factor that's on people's minds, what does it cost to buy a home over in Idaho? Because I know King County, it's expensive. The average price of a home in King County is $895,000. Now, if you look at Kootenai County, that's where Hayden, Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Rathdrum is, that is $689,000. Quite a bit of a difference. And those are like the premier areas. You can get moved further out and you can find a home for quite a bit cheaper. In fact, throughout Idaho, the average cost of a home is $442,000. So definitely gonna be different than King County. I know a lot of people that have left just because they feel that they can't buy a home. So Idaho, yes, the prices did go up over the pandemic, just like they did everywhere, but it's still quite a bit more affordable than King County. Now, this next one is a huge concern for people getting moved out of big cities. What is the crime rate like in Idaho? Is it going to be safe? And now, I'm not trying to disparage anybody here. I love Seattle. That was my favorite place to visit growing up. I have relatives that live over there, and it really sucks to see how bad the crime has gotten, but I want you guys to know what the differences are compared to the two places. So in Seattle, the violent crime rate is a 37.3 with a national average of 22.7. Property crime is 76.9 with a national average of 35.4. In Coeur d'Alene, violent crime is at 24.8 and property crime is at 44.7. Now, that's Coeur d'Alene. That's kind of our major city in North Idaho, if you can call it that. So the crime rates in that town are going to be a little bit higher than it is in the rest of Idaho. In Boise, you have a 16.3 violent crime rate, and property crime is 34.2. Now, you might be wondering, why is the violent crime rate double in Coeur d'Alene than Boise. What's going on there? Well, Boise's down by Utah, and so they're a little more passive, a little bit friendlier. And here in North Idaho, our words can fail us sometimes, and we just gotta work things out the old-fashioned way. So no, it's not muggings, no, it's not people getting shot. It's usually people that got drunk and got in a fist fight, or, just kind of that old, just go watch an old Western and you'll get a pretty good idea of what's going on.
And somebody ought to belt you in the mouth, but I won't. I won't. The hell I will.
Here, I'm just kidding. People aren't just going around punching people, but yeah, a little bit more rough up here. We got some colder, darker days. We got to get the aggression out somehow, but you're going to be perfectly safe here, especially compared to Seattle. Now, I know people are already in my comment section going, yeah, but Seattle's a major city and there's way more people here, so that's probably why the crime rate's higher. Well, you are right. The population's about 760,000 people back in 2021, and Coeur d'Alene has about 60,000 people. Boise, 250,000 in the city, 850,000 in Treasure Valley, but these stats are based on per capita, so they are adjusted for that. So, it's statistics. It's not going to be exactly accurate, but it does give you a pretty good picture of what things are like. Moving on to a factor that is important to me, I don't like to just sit around. I like to do things. I like to have fun. Entertainment is important. And obviously, Seattle is going to crush Idaho in the entertainment department. You guys got the Seahawks. You got the Krakens. You got the Mariners. You have tons of music venues. You got comedy clubs. There's something to do every single night, right? Well, here in Idaho, especially North Idaho, there's no comedy clubs. There's a couple of music venues. We've got bowling. We've got movie theaters. We have the Silverwood theme park. We have Triple Play, which is a family fun center. And we have 5 awesome ski resorts. But the fact of the matter is that people don't move to North Idaho to have that kind of lifestyle. Now, don't get me wrong, it's available. Just drive over to Spokane. A lot of that stuff is over there. They got comedy clubs, they've got nightclubs, they've got the Gonzaga basketball team, which is awesome to watch. But yeah, here in Idaho, people move to North Idaho because they kind of want to get away from that stuff. But there's tons of stuff to do outside. This is the outdoor paradise for a lot of people, whether you like to hike, hunt, fish, play on the water, dirt bike, snowboard, pretty much anything you want to do outside, you can do it here in Idaho. 60% of the land is owned by the federal government, which means it's public, which means you have access to it, and it's very, very close by. Now you go down to Boise, different story. They've got the Boise Broncos down there, which is a college football team. They've got comedy clubs, they've got music. It's the biggest city in Idaho, so they're gonna have more of that stuff, but yeah, Seattle definitely takes the cake when it comes to the entertainment. Next, let's jump into the weather. Now everybody knows Seattle has rain. It has lots of rain, 40 inches of rain a year, and 370 days of gray skies. I'm just kidding. You have some very beautiful days, but yeah, you get a lot of overcast, right? It's a lot of gray days. It's not a place that I could live and feel like I'm thriving. So over here in Idaho, up in Coeur d'Alene, we get about 30 inches of rain a year, and down in Boise, they only get about 13 inches. But we also get 70 inches of snow on average in the wintertime, which obviously that's gonna beat Seattle a little bit. You guys rarely get snow, rarely drops below freezing. And here in North Idaho, we usually have about a week or two where it gets below 0. Now, it's not a deal breaker, I promise. There are things that you can do, and I talk about it in my other videos. You can go do sauna, get some good clothes, and you can actually really enjoy the cold weather. But if that's something that you don't think you can deal with, you're welcome. Stay out of this place. Look at southern Idaho, because down there, they don't get as much snow at all. They do have a thing called inversion. In fact, we got it up here, which is pretty rare. But yeah, you'll get gray clouds down there that last for about 3 weeks or a month. So you might just feel right at home. Now, summer in Seattle, it usually consists of about 70 degrees, can get up into the 80s. In North Idaho, we stay around the 80s, sometimes get above 100. You can have that happen. And down in Boise, you're usually in the 90s around the summertime. So definitely a lot of sunny days in the Boise area. You have a moderate amount of sun here in North Idaho, but it's still quite a bit more than you get over in Seattle. Next, let's talk about traffic. Now, I know if you're living in Seattle, unless you are totally numb and you've gotten used to it, the traffic probably drives you nuts. In fact, according to my research, Seattle ranks amongst the worst for traffic in the nation. You're definitely not going to be experiencing that here in Idaho. In fact, I couldn't even really find good stats on traffic because I don't think they're really studying it like they do over in major cities. So for me, in the last 2 years here in North Idaho, I've gotten stuck in traffic for more than 20 minutes twice. And one of them was because a older woman drove on the wrong way of the freeway, caused a major pileup. And the other one was on the freeway, a semi truck had tipped over with its load. So they had to get it cleaned up. I think overall, I might've sat for maybe 30 minutes and it drove me crazy because it never happens. But yeah, here in North Idaho, traffic is not, compared to Seattle, it's not really a thing. Now you get to some of the developing areas like Post Falls, they're doing construction, they're expanding roads. You can run into it a little bit, but I promise if you're coming from Seattle, you'll go, what traffic? Down in Boise, that is obviously a lot more people down there. There are some roads that are known for traffic, but again, it's nothing like the Seattle or LA traffic. It's pretty moderate. So yeah, that is a factor that you can definitely look forward to if you move to Idaho. Now in Idaho, guns and the right to protect yourself and your neighbor are a huge part of our culture. This is just how we are here. We see that all of the other rights are dependent on the Second Amendment. And so when Washington started banning the assault rifles, Idaho went, cool, we're gonna do constitutional carry, which means you don't need a permit, you don't need anything. You can conceal a weapon on yourself to defend yourself or others without our permission. And so we kind of moved in the opposite direction. And I know some people moving from the west coast of Washington are a little bit hesitant about guns. It's just part of our culture. It's how we like it here. And we really don't like people who are trying to change it. So if that's something that you feel that you're gonna need to do, maybe look at a different state. Next, we're gonna talk about the public schools here in Idaho compared to Seattle. We're gonna talk about how they rank, the investment being made, and what they're like going there. I myself went to school in Idaho, and I can tell you about my experience. But obviously Seattle is going to rank higher with their schools than in Idaho. And you might be going, well, why is that obvious? Well, because Seattle is number 15 in terms of how much they invest into each student. Idaho's number 50. Yep, dead last. But here's what's interesting. The ranking you would think would be really different. Seattle ranks 31. Idaho ranks 36. So it's only a difference of 5, but yet the investment is so much different. And at the end of the day, what that means is less taxes you're paying that you get to keep, and then you can spend it on subsidizing some of your kids' education. Because I promise you, you do not want to just rely on public schools for your kids' education. The world is changing quick. Technology is changing quick. And my kids are in school right now, and I can tell you they are not being prepared whatsoever for this new world. So you got to help subsidize that. And as far as going to school here in Idaho, it was fine. It was your typical school experience.
O'Doyle rules!
Thanks a lot, O'Doyle. Nice meeting you.
I initially went to Coeur d'Alene High School for 2 years. That was a great experience, but some of the teachers, not so great. Went to Post Falls, the students weren't so great. It was very cliquey, but the teachers were great. So it's kind of an average experience. Like I said, you still want to subsidize the schooling experience, which I'm glad my parents, they did buy, they paid for tutoring. So I was able to excel. But at the end of the day, the rankings on schools, unless, you don't want to be in Alabama dead last or whatever. Just kidding about that. I don't know if they're dead last, but you definitely want to make sure that you're helping your kids with the schooling. And the last factor we're looking at today, and probably the biggest one you need to consider, are the people. How do the people in Idaho compare to the people over in Seattle? Are you going to get along with them? Are you going to be able to put up with them? This is what we're going to look at. So over in Seattle, obviously it's much more diverse. It's a coastal city. You have people all over the world that move there, that visit there. Not so much here in Idaho. Yes, we have some diversity, but it's nothing compared to Seattle. Over in Seattle, people seem to adhere very well to the prescribed political correctness. They're very health and environmentally conscious. In Idaho, not so much. Our population consists of about 81% Caucasian, and people view political correctness as an infringement on their free speech. So we definitely have those characters that like to say things that are not politically correct just to get a rise out of anybody who might be hearing it and is going to get offended. This is definitely not a place where somebody's emotions trump the freedoms and Bill of Rights. We feel those are more important. And I know over in Seattle, it's kind of a debate going on with that. So just know when you get moved here, you might hear some people saying some things that might make you gasp. Now, we are environmentally conscious, but on a local level. We have a really hard time understanding why the straw that is dissolving in my drink, because it's made out of paper, how that's gonna save a turtle this far inland. We're not shipping our garbage, it's not getting blown into the ocean. So some people just see some of the solutions that are being peddled as just being political theater. And I know people over in Seattle can be very conscious about the environment. So that's another factor you need to look at. And as far as health, people in Idaho aren't super worried about it because hell, who wants to live forever? It is becoming more popular though. We're starting to see more like juice bars pop up and yoga places. So, I mean, I think health is great. My dad, chiropractor, mom's a nurse. I was raised in the health field, but not everybody is into that. And lastly, the people of Idaho are very, very big on not changing things too much or too quickly. They're seeing what's going on in these cities. They see the chaos and how many people are moving here because they're done with it. And they don't want that here. So I know a lot of people are very active in politics and activism over in Seattle. And so if you plan on coming here going, I'm gonna help fix this place, not gonna be a welcoming committee to you. You're gonna have a lot of opposition. And so we allow anybody who wants to live here, live the way you wanna live. But the moment you start telling other people how they need to live, it's not great. It causes a lot of problems. So I would say if you're gonna come move here, just get in that mindset, hey, people live the way they want to live. Let's give this a try before we try to start changing things. So if you want something a little more mild, maybe you're going, Idaho, the guns and the conservatism, not for me. Eastern Washington is usually a great option for people that are looking for that in between. It's not like Seattle and it's not Idaho, but it's a nice little in between. If you'd like me to provide more information about what it's like living in Spokane compared to Seattle, let me know in the comments and I'll get that video put together. But I hope you liked this video. I hope this provided the information that you need to decide if Idaho is the right place for you to consider moving. And if it is, please reach out at the phone number or email address listed below. Day, nights, weekends, it does not matter. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. Come out with videos all the time, but a lot of people don't hit that bell so they don't see them. And until the next one, I will see you later.